I tell you what, the feedback we've been receiving is just been outstanding. It's eye-opening, and whenever you tackle the tough topics, it's one thing I'm really proud about what we do here. So we've got another interesting topic, and of course that is the future of our industry. Who's going to be sitting in those chairs? Who's going to be in those leadership positions? Their current positions as well, and we're really happy to have with us.
Well, no, all I was going to say is we're getting ready. Arminda's going to talk to us about recruitment.
Yep.
But Arminda, I want you to know, as you already know, there's not a bigger topic. When we go through these hundreds of questions that we've received, recruitment, how do we get young people in, all the things, and we'll talk about some of that in our Q&A afterwards. But Arminda's tackling another tough topic.
Yep.
And we're so glad that you're with us. So Arminda, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
And it's all yours.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with y'all. Listen, the only thing I wish is that we were all in person. I really wish that. But because we're not, I went ahead and I've got I'm assuming that everything's going to be so amazing that this is actually what's happening. So I've gone ahead and cued that. So thank you all in advance for this massive support. I appreciate it. But we are here, and I am so thrilled to be able to talk to y'all today about relationship recruiting, very specifically. And we're going to get into that. And before we leave today, my hope, my anticipation is that you're going to walk away with 5 things that you're going to do today or enhance. Maybe you're already doing some of these things, but that's my anticipation and my commitment to you. I also want to commit to you that I'm going to try not to talk so fast because we have so many things that I want to share with you, but I'm going to try and keep it slowed down so that I get everything communicated across to you. Please send those questions in, though. Happy to answer any of your questions that we can and have time for at the end. But let's get into it. All right. So do I have, I was sliding here. I'm on my laptop. How do I move this? Got it. I think I did it. Yay. See, cheer, crowds cheering. Yay. Okay, guys, let's talk first just about some statistics, just some actual sheer numbers. And let's do a raise of hands. I know I can't see you, but you can see you. How many of us, and I'm raising both my hands, have made bad hires? Most all of us have. 74% of us actually have made bad hires. So there's no shame in that, but let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about what that's actually costing us in real dollars, upwards of $15,000 for a bad hire, but you have to factor in the cost in lost productivity and drop in employee morale. Those are all factored into that. But what happens when we lose a good hire? Because that has an even bigger financial impact on us, right? That can cost $30,000. And here's what we factor into that: recruitment, onboarding, morale, lost productivity, errors, culture, the training dollars, and maybe most significantly, the knowledge that is no longer at your desk, but is at someone else's, right? It's not even in the building anymore. 2 types of traditional hiring, and we're going to talk about both of those in depth today. You have transactional hiring and you've got relational hiring. So this is where we're going to go. Okay. Oh, there it switched. I'm not used to this little interface. So we're going to get there. Here's a little statistic that I think matters. The global workforce consists of 70% passive job seekers and 30% active job seekers. If I did not mention this at the start, I talk with my hands. So hopefully everybody's not falling asleep. All right. 70-30. What does that have to do anything? Because if we are relying on transactional hiring techniques alone, we are overlooking 70% of the possible people who could be a right fit for us. That's why this matters, because 70% of those people are not submitting applications to you. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what that looks like. So just in a basic, straightforward timeline, here's what transactional recruiting looks like. You have a vacancy, so you post up online that I've got a job. You have applications that send in, or applicants who send in their resumes. You review those applications, you start interviewing some of those, and then you make a hire. It's pretty straightforward. It's really basic. We've all done it. So let's dive into that a little bit. It's really, I think of transactional recruiting really more like a revolving door, because it's cyclical. Somebody comes in and then they walk out again. How many people are we actually losing in that transactional cycle? A lot. A lot of times there's poor handling because we're so anxious to get somebody in the seat. So we might extend a higher invitation before we know who all the applicants even are, or we may not know enough about the person hiring. And so we're anxious. We think, I don't want to lose somebody. So we get that seat filled. But then if we end up actually losing them, refer back to the previous slide, what's that actually costing us? So hiring managers, look, there's a lot on you. I get that. There's a lot that's expected and asked of you, but what we don't want to do is cut corners to get those positions filled. I take the stand that recruiting really is and should be all about timing. So let's look at relational hiring. What's the timeline look like for that? Well, it looks like it's happening all the time. That's what it looks like. We're always networking. We're networking everywhere. Do not keep it in the family. I'm going to underscore that multiple times in the time we have together today. Don't keep it in the family, because the right person for you may not be in your industry. Once you are networking and you are creating relationships, you want to keep in touch. That's really what relationships are all about. So you keep in touch. And then when you have opportunities, when you have vacancies, you've already got a pool of candidates. So you're going to reach out with an opportunity for someone you already know might be a good fit for that particular opportunity, and then the hire is made. So let's break that down just a little bit more. It's all about the relationship and it's not about the transaction. Let me underscore that again. All hiring should be about the relationship, not the transaction, not the end result, which is, whoo, I got a butt in a seat. We don't actually want to look, we want to kind of reverse order that. We want to look at this as, what do I need to be doing today in order to have relationships that are going to impact for the rest of forever this organization and what we're doing? So here's a little bit of a breakdown. When we talk about relationship recruiting, we're looking at passive as well as active candidates. And let me pause here to say, for our edification, as a reminder, passive candidates, remember that was the 70% block of the 70-30 split. Passives are not looking. They're not looking for a job because they are happily employed. They are top performers. They are high producers. They may be in your industry. They may not be in your industry, and they must be recruited. And so when we talk about and look at relationship recruiting, I want you to keep that in mind, that the majority of folks that you may think are the right fit for you are not sending you an application. They're not sharing their resume with you. They probably, passive candidates don't even have an active or current resume, okay? When we are relationship recruiting and when we're in that mindset, we're always uncovering industry and talent market insights. We have insights into the candidate needs that go beyond just, hey, here's a list of qualifications and these are my comp requirements. We're going to know from the beginning, meaning the beginning of when we have a vacancy, who the right fit is. We're going to already have candidates because we know them as people, because we have relationships with them. We're creating long-term partnerships, and relationship recruiting is intentional and it is proactive. Oh, I'm going to scoot back here because I wrote this definition for y'all. So here's what I think relationship recruiting is. It is connecting, building, and maintaining relationships with individuals who possess skills, traits, and experience that may qualify them for future opportunities in your company. And as we're going through this, I want y'all to consider relationships. And just to take a pause here. And I want you to think about relationships in your life, interpersonal relationships. You have children, you have friends, you have buddies from college, You have a spouse. You have neighbors. Borrowing that cup of sugar, that's me. Okay. So these are relationships, and those relationships are built. They are maintained. You're putting something in to that relationship so that it continues. We're going to take those same skills and apply them in this environment and create our pools. And we're going to get into some very specific ways to do that, places to do that, and how to track that. But I just want you to be thinking it's no different than the relationships that you have in your life. Okay, so why are we talking about this? What are the benefits of this in the first place? Because y'all, it is strategic. I want you to think and consider that you are getting the best, not just who's available. You're not settling for something. You're going to have a better understanding of the talent landscape in your market. You will, in theory, shorten the timeline to fill those open positions. You're going to measure a culture fit before day one. You're also creating really a flow of prospects. So it's not just a one-off, and you're targeting the talent that you need. So I promised you 5 steps. Here they are. We're going to dive into each of these specifically and individually, but I want you to see it at a full page glance. Okay. Step 1, identify long-term goals and needs. 2, assess your current staff and team. 3, start sourcing. 4, build relationships of trust. And 5, present opportunities and keep engaging. So what we're going to do now is dive into each of these one at a time, very specifically. Step 1, identify your long-term goals and needs. Now, I'd love for you to take some minutes with me right now. I told y'all this was going to be interactive. So on the piece of paper you hopefully have in front of you, I'd like you, very quick, you're going to come back and do more of this on your own, a little bit more thoughtfully, but let's go ahead. What does your team look like in the next 12 months? Jot that down. Where do you want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? How does your current hiring process impact these goals? And 4, will you achieve your revenue objectives by making these hires? So this matters. Going through this step certainly matters in your ability to make all the rest of the magic happen. Okay. So let's look at step 2, assessing your current staff and team. Some more questions for you to consider and answer. Do you have gaps right now? Do you have anyone nearing retirement? Do you have a succession plan in place for key roles? I shouldn't even think this, but it's shocking still how many people don't, by the way. So don't be one of those. Figure that out. Do you have internal or upward mobility options? And how does your sales team look? We never want to overlook that. How does your sales team look? Are your top billers your peer leaders? Are they good teammates? Do you know if they're happy? And maybe the biggest question of the day, do they recruit for you? So let's go to step 3. And just as a reminder, you're going to want to take time after we're done here today and go back through really thoughtfully consider and answer each of those questions for yourself. It's going to set you up for a very successful experience in relationship recruiting. Okay, so number 3, I want you to start and never stop sourcing. What is sourcing? It's a lot of things, but essentially it's casting a wide net. That's what sourcing is. So I want you to create a pipeline. That's number 1 under sourcing, is creating a pipeline. Now, I personally call that a list of 100. Why? Because I'm only human, and how do I keep up with all the people? I don't. So I want to limit that, and it evolves and changes, but if I keep that to a list of 100, that seems very manageable to me. You're going to keep that updated. This is a spreadsheet. I'm going to show you some examples of that. We'll talk that through in another slide or 2. You'll include notes. You'll prioritize that for sorting, scheduling time on your calendar. We're going to go through that in more detail. What other ways to source? Host your own events. There are just a bazillion. Look, y'all are in media, you know how to host events. Lunch and learns, everything from educational events to targeting college folks, career fairs, job fairs, that sort of thing. Tons and tons of different things, but you can source everywhere. This is where I want to reiterate, do not keep it in the family. Don't just limit yourself to industry people. You may be shocked to discover people outside of your industry are remarkable and have talents and gifts and skills that translate into the very things that you do and need to have done. So networking events, conferences, referrals, we're going to come back to that. Employees, current and former, universities, social media, your listeners and viewers. We were recently at a conference in Indianapolis, and we were listening to the radio in an Uber being driven to a client meeting, and an ad came on. The radio station was running an ad for sellers to its listeners saying, hey, if you're a listener of this station and you like us and you pay all this attention to us, you know who we are, you're our target person. And if you're looking for work, boom, come in. They said it was working like, it was crazy how effective that was. So anyway, there are lots and lots of ways to source, to do outreach, to get people to talk to you. So don't overlook any of that. We're going to talk about our employees. So I really want to look at that in a moment, but let's first, that pipeline, that list of 100 that I mentioned. You want to keep it updated, right? Don't just create it and then it like collects dust in your archive and your Google Drive. Include notes and next steps. Look, I am the first to admit that I need to keep notes on myself because I don't remember. So whatever's happening, I have a column, I can make a note with a date. Hey, sent an email, forwarded an article, made a phone call, had a coffee, whatever, like keep notes. That way I know when I come back. I'm going to prioritize that. There are ways to sort that. I want you to remember too, this is a place, this is like an active and live document that you are creating and interacting with for your own benefit. So you're going to move people around. Don't ever eliminate or delete somebody, but you may have a different column or a different page where you put folks on, but don't ever actually delete anyone. Maybe most importantly is to schedule time on your calendar to interact with your spreadsheet, to actually do outreach. And when I talk about a list of 100, I am not suggesting for one moment that you do outreach to all 100 people all the time. No, that would be crazy. But maybe it's once a quarter. Maybe you divide that list. Maybe you have sections of that list in certain kinds of people or certain kinds of industries or locations or sources of those folks. And you're doing any number of various kinds of outreach to them, but schedule time on your calendar. That's a regular commitment. That's a regular date that I want you to have. And maybe it's 20 minutes, maybe it's 30 minutes a week, or maybe it's every other week, whatever works for you, but make a date with yourself. One of my mentors has always said, right, we know what our priorities are because they show up on our calendar. And I want you to be a priority for you. So put you on your calendar, make a date with you, and then have an accountability system of some kind. Maybe, I don't know, if you have access to the other people who are attending this session today, maybe like ping somebody and just create an accountability buddy. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's whoever. But find somebody to whom you can be accountable that, yeah, I'm keeping track. I'm doing what I need to do. Now, these are some questions. Look, I am sure that you all already know all the things on this list, but maybe what you're going to see here is a new spin on an old trick. So in case you need a refresher, these are just some conversation starters for your enjoyment and your perusal. A word about your employees as resources. Now I'm going to come back to that. I know, teaser alert. I'm going to come back to that. All right. So here are just some examples and some ideas of ways that you can connect with others. Here we go. Here's the teaser. Come to life. Your employees. Resource at home. They are a resource for you. Here's the reality. Another fact. You can expand your talent pool 10 times by recruiting through your employees' networks. It's true. I want you to consider that you have an entire force of folks who know your culture, your values, and your mission better than anyone. And it's your employees. So let's empower them to be the resource that they already are. Create that culture and that environment of trust, and foster and empower those relationships to create their own relationships. Teach them the list of 100. Have everybody doing that. Have a list of 100 accountability party on a Friday. Whatever you need to do, but let everybody be working on this together. This is not resting entirely on your shoulders. It shouldn't be, because when we engage everyone around us, we're going to actually achieve everything that we would like. We know that our employees are our number one source of hires. So how do we create that? Well, there are lots of different ways. Here are a handful of them for you. Pay them. Hey, I'm going to send everybody my Venmo. Everybody loves getting money, right? Like, give them a reason to share people with them. Drop them some cash. Put them on an interview panel. How amazing would that be? Create an ambassador program where they're your cultural ambassadors. Remember we talked about ad versus fit. We don't want a cultural ad. We want a fit. If we're always adding to exactly what we are, it's not very diverse. So we want to look for fits. And again, our employees are ideal at being able to do and accomplish just that. Your employees want to be seen as valuable and as part of the team. And this is an incredible and easy way to do that. They also love to help other people. They love to help their friends. And guess what? Do we like to work with people that we like? 100% yes. So are they likely to bring friends in? 100% yes. Always asking for referrals. Okay. So those are just some easy ways to consider. Okay. Number 4. Build relationships of trust. Oh, this is so important. And again, y'all know this. Remember, we're thinking about like our interpersonal relationships, and how those are fostered is because we trust each other, with all sorts of things. And so we're building and expanding on that. We want to do the same thing. And I'm not talking about sharing your innermost thoughts, but I want you to make a connection that there should be no expectations when you are entering into conversations. It's not about you ever. It is always about the other person. And your ability to be genuine in that outreach is what will make all the difference. You care because you really care. You help because you really want to help. That's it, full stop. And there's nothing in that you're expecting something in return, not even that they're going to work for you someday. It's just simply about creating a relationship that is of trust and genuine interest in the other person. Include your employees in this. Again, I'm reiterating some things because they're important. Schedule that time weekly to connect, to engage. And I want to say this, I would include your employees on that list of 100, by the way. Focus on others' needs, their wants, their desires, their future aspirations, and empower the entire team to build those relationships of trust. I want to share a fun statistic with y'all. When candidates were interviewed about their interview experience, they actually said 78% of them said that their overall experience was the biggest indicator of how much a company values its people. Now, not a big surprise, a strong candidate experience is going to create and generate an increased quality of your new hires. Does that make sense? So the stronger that experience, the better quality of candidate or hire that you actually bring in. And in fact, that's by 70% increase. So a lot of something to consider there. All right. How do you engage? Look, y'all know this. Again, these are just refreshers. Probe what they like about jobs, careers, goals, getting personal. I have this note here and I want you to notice it. I said, get personal, it's all related, because I stand on the platform firmly that says, I want to make sure all the plants in the house are watered. Do you know what I'm saying by that? Like everything is interrelated. There's not we don't actually section things out in our head. We don't leave work and go home and leave home and go to work. Like, it actually doesn't, it's all interrelated. So be personal. Share the fact that I have a 24-year-old daughter and she's my whole world. That's a personal fact that is true about me. And I know that she texted me while I was here talking to you, but I'm like, I can't take that because we're here. But that's my heart. That matters. Get personal because it's all related. Her relationship to me directly impacts my relationship to you, to the work that I do. Ask for referrals constantly of everyone, everywhere. Follow them. Make sure you know what's going on. And then again, the scheduling on your calendar, making time for what matters the most. And our step 5 is presenting opportunities and keep engaging. Obviously, when you have an opening and a vacancy and you've got somebody already that you know and have been in communication with, you think, oh, there could be a good fit. You present that opportunity and go through your traditional hiring process. Follow up and follow through is key. Provide a thorough onboarding experience. And I'm going to pause here and talk about onboarding for just a moment for your illumination. In case you didn't know, onboarding begins when you begin a conversation, right? It begins as part of the interview process. You are showcasing your culture and the fit from start. So consider it's more like onboarding is more like a courtship, right? You're courting them from start to hire. Here's what onboarding is not. Onboarding is not a phone and a business card waiting on an empty desk. It's not what that is. And if you need some additional insight into onboarding, you just give me a call and we can talk about that one-on-one. Okay, so continue. Obviously, step 5 is also continue working your pipeline and your sourcing. All right. I promised you that you would have homework. Here it is, spelled out for you. Number 1, I want you to commit to being a relationship builder. Let's all do it together. Let's raise our hands, put it on your heart, wherever you want to do it, and smile as big as a Wednesday and say, I commit to being a relationship builder. 2, I would like for you to book in your own calendar a 42-minute block of time with yourself. Go back and review and answer those questions that we covered earlier. Have time scheduled with yourself every single week. Number 3, I would like for you to create your own pipeline, your own list of 100. And if you've only got 5 names to start, that's fine. You've got space to obviously grow. And if you would like to be on my own personal list of 100, you send me an email. Schedule your first conversation with someone in your pipeline. And number 5, send me an email so that I can celebrate with you. Here's my email. It's arminda@mediastaffingnetwork.com. I have thoroughly enjoyed our time together today, and hopefully we accomplished what we set out to accomplish. I didn't say any bad words, and I slowed down, and I think we got it all covered. All right, guys, I'm ready for questions. Hit me.
All right. Well, I love the fact that your bar set really low as well. It's like, I didn't say any bad words. Yeah. So that's a good thing.
So you left that open for us. That's good. So we still have a space available.
Take it away, y'all.
So you can text questions to Arminda. We've got some that you would send us ahead of time. Hundreds, honestly, that we've pulled a few. 913-303-8729. Text us questions that you have on recruitment and hiring for Arminda. We're really excited, Arminda, to announce to everyone that you're going to be one of our featured trainers and be a part of our 10-Minute Trainer Network and helping everyone with recruiting. So thank you for that. Hey, great job today. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
It's great. You now have HR and compliance and somebody could help answer questions for you in terms of recruitment, available 24/7, 365. That's pretty cool stuff. Proud to have Media Staffing Network as part of this, and Arminda will be one of those trainers. So that's very cool. All right, Arminda, we got some questions for you. The first one is actually 2 different people, variation on the same question. So I want to make sure we kind of get it from both ways. The first one is out of North Dakota, and that is, are commission only or commission primarily sales jobs making it harder to fill? Should we be approaching it differently? Let me do the other one. What does the future of sales compensation look like? I like that. Employees are looking for more stable income versus straight commissions. What does the most successful comp plans look like? And that's from Minnesota. And so we got Minnesota and North Dakota. And anything pops into mind?
I'm sorry, I was repositioning the thing. Can you tell me the first question again?
What is the meaning of life? No, I'm messing with you. Are commission only or commission primarily sales jobs making it harder to fill? And should we be doing something or approaching it differently?
God, what a great question. It's a great question. And I'm going to go philosophical on y'all. I don't have an answer for you, but here's what I think. I think it is a question that should be considered, right? It's always been done that way, right? We've got all the stories. If it's always been done that way, is that why we should keep doing it? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I do think it is a valuable question to be considered by all of y'all who are in this space. And it's not just media, right? Everyone does it this way. Does that mean we should continue? I don't have an answer. I just sound like I'm answering your question with a question. So I think it's something that needs to be brought into.
Yeah, we had a discussion on this one earlier. It's always been a hot topic.
My opinion would be this: is that I agree with you. I'm not sure either. What I do know is some of what we're doing right now is not working, and if we're, I think the days of commission only. Yeah. Is it healthier to be in a hybrid world? But people are looking for stability. I think more than anything, what we've got to recognize is that with the workforce as an industry, we've got to look beyond the way we've compensated people in the past. These low starting guarantees out of the gate, we can't compete. And whether it's, we do a lot of, if you do well, you can make this, and then we don't always give them the tools to do well. But I think there's got to be commission there, but they're also looking for stability. So
right, I think
like a hybrid is the way to go.
There's an argument to be had, right? Right. People need to eat, but if we take away the incentive for them to actually get out there and sell, right? I like the idea of a hybrid. Also, just FYI for everybody's awareness, we do have a comp study coming out in the very near future, and we're going to have more information on that at Media Staffing Network.
Well, I would also, particularly on the recruitment standpoint, look, once people get up and they start developing their lists, they start developing their relationships, there's a lot of people who would never go back. They love commissions, and that's great. But what we're looking at right now is recruiting the best and the brightest folks out there today. And we're competing in a very crowded arena. And we're competing by saying, look, if you try really, really hard, we think you'll do all right. I mean, they've got to be able to have the time to study. They're going to have the time to learn their craft, and we need to pay them while they're doing that. So maybe it's a phase-in situation. Maybe it's a bonus situation plus sales, or maybe it's an override, that sort of situation. But yeah, I think just because we've always done it this way does not necessarily mean we should keep doing it this way.
Yeah, I do think you've got to have some kind of security. And I think, people have to eat, and there has to be some kind of, right. So the hybrid of, some kind of salary plus commission and incentives and bonus on top of that, certainly lots to be discussed.
Okay, got another one for you. And this is certainly a good one. And there were dozens of questions similar to this one. How do we as an industry recruit and encourage younger people to see the sales side of the business as a real and rewarding career path? This question comes from Texas, but I think we're all struggling at times to attract younger people into our business. Any thoughts there?
Well, I hope everybody just attended my session.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that I responded to that already. This is about relationships, and I'm going to tell everybody a quick story. A few years ago, I was going through the McDonald's drive-through one morning before work and had the most shocking experience when I got to the order thingy, right? One, I could hear the person, her voice was clear and articulate, and she was so pleasant. It was like she was smiling through the microphone, and gave my order, drove around, met her in person. She was still just as pleasant. And I was shocked. I went away from that and ended up 30 minutes later coming back, walking inside and asking to speak to her. I gave her my card and said, if you're interested in something other than the McDonald's drive-through window, I want to be your first call. So it's about looking everywhere and recognizing that we also are the representatives of how this works, how this model works, how sales is an exciting opportunity, and the massive impact of media, and what a privilege it is to represent that.
You know, what's interesting is that we're seeing more and more in particularly in Gen Z, millennial, Gen Alpha still remains to be seen. There is a tremendous desire for these individuals to give back. They want to give back to their communities. And that's why the buy local situation has been so massive. I mean, millennial really kind of created that entire genre. So one of the things we do need to be preaching to these folks is you're helping your community develop businesses, small businesses that need expertise. And I have found that to be pretty helpful as well.
I love that. And of course, that's all about relationships, isn't it?
Exactly. It's exactly. And it's also speaking to their value system. And it's not a pipe dream. I mean, we are the voice, the eyes, ears, the voice of the communities that we serve. And we've got that ability to grow these small businesses. They need our help. They absolutely need our help. And we've got that experience. We can work hand in hand. I think it's a great story as opposed to, hey, I sell 60s and 30s and 10s.
So text us your questions. If you've found something to be successful for you in the recruitment arena, we'd love for you to share that with us as well. There's a whole lot of people out there trying to figure this one out. Brian, I think you got a text question.
I do. Hey, Arminda, how are you? Good to see you again.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, we spoke about this briefly last week when we were going through some odds and ends, and it's something that Lori was very much a big part of on the part-time seller side. But really, can you talk a little bit about those stations looking at hiring part-time sellers or that have not taking that leap, or people that already have that position? Can you talk about what you're seeing out there, how you've seen that work within the industry?
Sure. We did talk about this last week, and I'll share with everyone online today. Lori always calls it a split desk, right? There's no shame in that. There's no harm in that. In fact, it doubles your opportunity to have two people sharing either, an actual desk, right? Where you split a list and you have the opportunity to really take advantage of someone in a key time for them in the day. Like maybe they're in the morning because they've got kids at school, but they need to be home in the afternoon. Or maybe you've got somebody in retirement who is just wanting to be part of something, but not 40 hours a week, but they've got something in them yet to give and know the community. So there's a lovely opportunity here to take full advantage of someone who has something to give, but is not, again, calling back this idea of traditional and what we've always done, really reevaluating the opportunity here to bring more people into the culture that diversify us, that connect us with people that we may not be connecting to because we've been attached to, it's always been done this way.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And we're an industry that all too often gets hamstrung on. We've always done it this way. Arminda, we had another question, and it's a pretty broad, open-ended one. This came from Wisconsin. It said if your job depended on it, because mine does some days, of hiring a great new salesperson, where would you start? Tough one.
I would call me, but
well put.
Corey's phone is open. Look, hiring a good salesperson, I don't want to beat my own drum again, but it's about relationships. It's not, you don't start today. I mean, you do, but it's about these relationships. It's about knowing who somebody is, what their values are, what they're really wanting. How do they want to contribute? How do they want to be a part of the community? And showing that this is a beautiful way to do that, to be part of something that contributes, that gives back, that celebrates the communities in which we live and reside, and that they can make a bunch of money doing it.
Nicely put. You almost broke your own record there.
I almost did. But
I know a bunch was good.
It was good. It was good.
Let's go back to the younger folks. Okay. Our prior presenter, Ryan, and we were talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is at times a tough topic. This one on a different scale is difficult for us to solve right now in terms of hiring and finding good young people. There's a quote I love that it says, a pebble starts an avalanche. Often we talk about hiring young people, and those young people are looking at our staffs who are not so young, thinking, why do I want to be a part of that?
Yeah.
So if we can begin, and I want your thoughts on this, if we can begin to hire that younger person, that person that clearly doesn't look like the rest of our staff, then that diversity, I hope, can help us begin to hire that second person that over a course of time will change what that looks like. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think that we have a generational shift from when you and I started out in this industry a while ago, and to connect with young people today, it's, they don't want the tchotchkes, right? They want connection. They want to contribute. They want to feel like they're making a difference. Flexibility is key. And I think really tapping into these places where we can find access and really have conversations that are meaningful with them, going to the universities, working with them in their departments, to really groom young people to come into this industry, to show what a fantastic place it is to be able to do all the things that they want to do that they don't necessarily see happening because our workforce may be a little bit on the older side. Really tapping into our existing employees. Yes, they may be older, but they can be an amazing referral source. Who do they know? Maybe they've got kids or grandkids or friends of their children, right, who are looking for. So we don't want to assume or presume anything about who they may know. And what if we created a roundtable? What if we created an opportunity on a regular basis where we were taking ourselves into those communities, into those networks, and creating those conversations and those dialogues? Do you have stations that are reaching out, that are really targeting that demographic? Use it, right? Spend the money, take advantage of that and do the outreach there. Learning from, right, there's also an opportunity to kind of pitch, like you can learn from the pros, right? Learn from somebody who's been in this for a while and take advantage of that. So I think there are lots of ways to connect and to bring them in. And maybe, again, to repeat something we've been having this conversation with all of these questions I appreciate is let's turn it on its end. Let's not presume that we need to keep doing things the way they've always been done. And really inject some fresh new ideas and new blood by looking at and reevaluating.
Yeah, one thing I would love to see, and frankly, even going back to when I was in school, internships was a name only, particularly going into sales. And I always talk about the fact I worked, and I was a mass comm major. I worked at the radio station, worked at the TV station on campus, NPR and PBS. We talked about advertising sales like on a Tuesday my junior year. I mean, it was just barely mentioned. But what if we did some meaningful internships? Most smaller markets are huge. I'm talking particularly radio here in high school sports. I mean, it is massive. Yeah. So with our streaming these days, we can run games on 5, 6, 7 different schools at the same time. What if you had a sideline reporter that actually is a student that looked and talked and spoke? And what if they actually sold the advertising time that went with it? You're going to have a lot of folks. It's not going to work, but that's okay, because you're going to find 1 or 2 that are going to end up being stars for you.
And that changes the game.
It does.
1 or 2.
Yep. That's all you need.
Arminda.
I live in Alabama, and football's real big here. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You got to declare, you got to claim your team when you cross the state line, y'all. I'm not joking. It's a real thing. But what I'm saying is there is an opportunity, not just in sports, in the sports arena, but we've seen and have talked with stations who they target young kids. Like they start a camp that they run every year where they're bringing kids in and groom them all through middle school, high school, up into college, and are showcasing what's happening at their station. This could easily be adapted in TV and radio and numerous ways to start them young, show them what's going on, and give them opportunities to stay.
You know, we talk about hiring and we get so frustrated. I just had this thought, okay? At times we've got this huge mouthpiece in radio and television. We've got our digital capabilities now. And then we wonder why we can't hire good people because we don't always use our own properties to promote what we're doing well. And then if we do, we're using commercials and copy and creative that would you respond to it? Listen to your own copy sometimes. We're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
We wonder why no one responds and we're airing or displaying some commercial that there's nothing about it that gets anybody excited about being a part of this industry.
I've heard of the production departments, they refer to themselves as triage.
Yeah.
That does not invoke pride.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's slapping and dashing and throwing a Band-Aid on them and throwing them out the door. Yeah. I mean, but if we bring these people in young and I said high school, yeah, I mean, you can't go early enough to get us on the radar screen because we're not naturally there. We can develop our future. And that's what this is all about. I had a president of a company I worked for years, a very wise man. And he said a radio station, which this one happened to be radio, TV is exactly the same. He says, if you really stop and think about it, he goes, we're just a few $1,000s worth of equipment that is totally devalued as soon as you take it out of the box. We're in a rental building, right? And a trade out vehicle with a license that was granted by a mid-level government employee. So what do you really own? It's your people. That's what separates us. And I think a lot of times we forget about that.
Well said. Brian,
I'm going to give you an amen on a Wednesday.
There we go.
Brian?
Yeah, so we've had this question come in a couple of times here on our end. So I'm going to try to phrase it as easy as I can. But basically, you know, really, it's we've talked about this over and over again. The younger folks just don't know that we exist. In sense that we're not their number one choice. And I hate to say that, but we're not, right? They're going into they're going into insurance sales or they're going to medical sales. And really, you know, we've seen this firsthand where, you know, folks are recruiting in colleges and paying big bucks to get those individuals. So is there a secret sauce? And I know that you probably want to hold that a little tight, but is there a secret? Gosh, I'm seeing really good success out of rental car companies, or I'm getting a lot of really good recruits out of somebody said a cellular retail store. Is that something that you're just really seeing peak, or maybe that's something that you want to cover a little bit later as well? But is there anything that you're seeing that you'd like to chime in on a little bit of, you know what, I really feel like I'm getting really top quality candidates from this industry?
It's an interesting question. And the way I'm going to answer that is it really kind of depends on the market. It depends on the area. Right. So when we're working with our clients and digging into the recruitment process that we're doing a hire for, we're really digging into their very specific space. Like, who do you see? And I think that's the question, is really turn that on yourself and say, where do you see these people coming from? Where do you see? Is it hospitality? Is it the cellular sales market? Those are two big ones. Insurance is another one, right? In local arenas. I think if you're going medical sales, that's more of a national approach. So again, depending on what it is you're selling or who you're trying to target to come into your space, figure out what it is that you need. And then in answering that, it's going to it's like a dot to dot, right? It's going to connect you back to places where that's already being done or where those skills are being used.
All right. So let's kind of button all this up here. We recognize, based on all the questions that we've received, and we could do this for hours and never get to the end of the questions that we've received. that recruitment, retention of good employees is an important thing for the industry and honestly all product categories out there. Kind of tie put a bow on this for us, Arminda, of how we begin to get better. And I know you're going to say relationships, but I want you, and I agree with you. I want you to leave everyone with here's where we have to start and where we have to start today.
I have a very specific thing I want to say in response to this. And those relationships start at home, quite literally. The people that you already have on your team working for you. And when we are building and fostering and continuing to improve those relationships, and that looks like recognition, it looks like the conversation in passing, it looks like knowing, oh, how's your daughter doing in New York? Right? When we're doing that, statistically, we know that our employees are 37% more likely to stay with us and not be one of those good hires that's costing us over, 200 times the amount of their salary to replace them. So that's what I do want to underscore. It is relationships, and just remind yourself, right? How I want to be treated. Mm-hmm.
What would you say to maybe some old school managers? And I got this recently in a management session that I was delivering that came up afterwards. And he said, I don't know that I agree with you, because I don't know that it's okay to get that close to your employees and to have those kind of relationships. What would you say to those people? And they're out there.
They are out there. They certainly are out there. I know them. I would just say I respectfully disagree. I think it's all about relationships, and it starts with a relationship that you have with yourself. And that's the line I stand on. It really is it's all about those relationships. Otherwise, we've got the revolving door, and we know it because it's happening. You and I
are we're going to toe that line together. I'll tell you. So.
Yeah. What is it that people don't care how much you know, is they want to know how much you care. That also applies to your employees. Yeah,
we're having a moment up here, y'all.
Arminda, hey, well done. We're so appreciative of you being with us. We can't wait to see more as we launch this 10-minute trainer network, and that you offer more and more ideas. Really looking forward to seeing this compensation study that you're putting out, and Jen said we're going to help with some of that and make sure we get that information out. So great job. Appreciate what you do, and we look forward to doing it again and seeing more from you on our 10-minute trainer network. Yeah,
I was going to say, welcome to the 10-minute trainer network. We appreciate you being there.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here, y'all. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Swagger on, Arminda.